Welcome to Exploring Early American History at St. Paul's, a 13-point self-guided tour of the Village Green and Historic Cemetery at St. Paul's Church National Historic Site in Mount Vernon, New York. This audio-visual program serves primarily as a guide for visitors who are walking the grounds at the site, but it would also be of interest to a remote audience. For the visitors, we would expect you to pause the program for a closer look at any juncture, or perhaps follow along with this audio and then return to particular points of interest for a closer examination. This self-guided tour covers the first 7 points on the tour. The points are marked by small American flags. The map that is part of this program will assist in locating the stops on the tour. It begins at the flagpole on the village green. This is the remnant of the village green or town common of Eastchester. Located at the crossroads of Westchester County, it was the site of an important and controversial special election for an open county-wide seat in the General Assembly of the Colony of New York on October 29, 1733. It is one of the earliest documented elections in our nation's history, covered through a lengthy account in the inaugural issue of the New York Weekly Journal. In rare detail, the account reveals the rituals, procedures, and animating issues of early American political life in a scene that was as much a social gathering as an electoral exercise. Lewis Morris, former Chief Justice of the colony and leader of a party opposed to New York's high-handed Royal Governor William Cosby, defeated William Forster, the county clerk and governor's preferred candidate. The election was notable because of the sheriff's disenfranchisement of Quaker supporters of Morris through the legally questionable imposition of a required biblical oath, which violated Quaker religious beliefs. A year later, in direct response, the Colonial Assembly passed a law giving Quakers the right to affirm rather than swear on public occasions, an important milestone in the development of religious freedom in the colonies. Walk around and behind the church and locate a small American flag posted near the church wall. This is the second stop on the tour. The original settlers of the town of Eastchester were Puritans, dissenters, opposed to the Church of England. But the British established the Church of England in the parish in 1702, part of a strategy to strengthen colonial administration, leading to a religious controversy that lasted for several decades. Buried beneath the church is the Reverend Thomas Standard, one of the rectors of the Church of England parish, who died in 1760. He was originally buried beneath the town's small wooden meeting house, which stood about 60 yards west of this edifice, and his coffin was reinterred here in the early 1800s. Reverend Standard's name is inscribed on the small bronze bell that he purchased for the church and still hangs in the belfry. It was cast in 1758 as the same London foundry as the Liberty Bell, and it remains functional. For point number 3, walk a few rows back and locate a reddish-brown sandstone grave marker for Samuel Pell, who died in 1786. He was an officer in the Continental Army for the entire Revolutionary War. He survived the infamous Valley Forge winter encampment of 1778 and was part of the army that defeated the British at Yorktown in October 1781, effectively ending the war. Pell survived the war, never married, and died from injuries sustained in a horse accident in a snowstorm in late December 1786. His family arranged for this finely chiseled sandstone monument, carved by New York craftsman Thomas Brown. It features a trophy of arms at the top and an allusion to Mars, the Roman god of war, in the epitaph. Look for another sandstone marker just 1 row behind the Pell stone with a skull and crossbone symbol, which is stop 4 on the tour. It is a sandstone grave marker for Elizabeth Wright, and the skull and crossbones is one of the haunting images of colonial burial yards. A symbol of death, it functioned as a community reminder about the fragility of life when contagious diseases, the primitive state of medicine, and local conflicts could mean that death was always lurking around the corner. On the stone, the phrase at the top, "Remember to die," and the epitaph, "Mortals be wise, improve ye day, while vital spirits animate ye clay," would remind people walking by not to wait too long to improve their personal, religious, and community behavior. Elizabeth, the wife of a doctor, died in 1766 at age 34, shortly after her two sons, buried in a common grave at Wright, had died at ages 10 and 8 months. Now, walk back towards the front of the cemetery and to your left, perhaps 20 yards, to reach the small American flag that represents point 5 on the tour. Remarriage upon death of a spouse was common in early America, when the myriad of domestic responsibilities in a pre-industrial world required the combined efforts of husband and wife. Caleb Morgan's sandstone marker is flanked by memorials for his two wives. At left is his first wife Abigail's stone, featuring a carefully carved soul effigy or angel, reflecting a more positive view of the chances of salvation than the death head on Elizabeth Wright's stone. Caleb's second wife, Isabella, who had lost her first husband, is buried to his right. In an indication of the limited legal status of women at the time, Isabella surrendered claims to her property to Caleb when they married. Abigail is identified as the wife of Caleb Morgan, which is also a sign of her limited legal status. The flag for point number 6, gravestones of Edmund and Phoebe Ward, is located 2 rows toward the front from the Morgan stones. Edmund Ward's life during the Revolutionary War illuminates the experiences of many New York Loyalists. A wealthy landowner, he sided with the Crown and was imprisoned by Patriot militia in White Plains in 1776. Later banished and confined in Massachusetts, he escaped and fled to New York City, headquarters of the British Army, where he spent most of the war. His wife Phoebe and their sons remained on the farm in Eastchester, enduring the difficulties of the notorious neutral ground, a no man's land caught between the armies with no civilian authority. In 1783, his estate was confiscated and auctioned off by the state of New York, one of many Westchester supporters of the British who lost their land. The Ward family followed many Loyalists into exile in Nova Scotia, Canada, an English possession. They were also part of a pattern of former Loyalists who quietly returned to America in the 1790s, though they never regained their large estate, settling on a small farm in the area. Now you'll be walking about 30 yards to the west for point 7, to a large underground vault for the Fowler family. The Fowler family tomb reveals divisions over the American Revolution. The marker at the left of the entrance memorializes Theodosius Fowler, an officer in the Continental Army who served almost continuously through 1783. His tenure included combat in almost all the important battles in the northern theater of the Revolutionary War and command of an elite light infantry company. Associations formed with fellow officers, including Alexander Hamilton, helped facilitate a successful career as a merchant after the war. He lived until 1842 at age 89, followed by burial in the family plot. Also interred here is his father, Jonathan, who was a judge and militia leader, the town's leading and wealthiest resident on the eve of the Revolution. Perhaps because of those positions, he opposed the Revolution, sided with the Crown, and went into wartime exile in Canada, passing away in the 1780s. There is no indication that father and son reconciled their searing political differences.